Hi, welcome to Theological Field Education. My name is Dr. Kate Lassiter, and I'm the Director of Theological Field Education here at Chicago Theological Seminary. In this video, I'll be sharing with you about another important component of your master's program, theological field placement. Theological field placement is a place, literally, quite literally, in your learning, where you learn to live more fully into your calling to ministry, and you get the chance to integrate all of your classroom learning with the wisdom of the world. But before we go too far, I want to invite you to take just a few seconds to settle in here, to get comfortable, and to really come into the space where you can be present as we talk about field placement. Now that you're all settled in, and before we jump right into talking about field placement, I want to take the time to remind us about theological field education and to give us a basic working definition about what it is and why it matters. So, theological field education is just a name for the teaching and learning that really centers on the practical dimensions of doing and living theology. It's in real places with real people and in a diversity of contexts. And field placement is, again, a very important component of theological field education and indeed of your whole entire education here at Chicago Theological Seminary. So now let me speak a little bit more to field placement and what it is. Field placement, and especially if you're reading along with me here, is the opportunity to learn and practice the ins and outs of ministry in specific places and again with specific people. The key critical component here is that you're also receiving a lot of mentorship from a seasoned religious leader. And really, what this becomes is an opportunity to grow in practical wisdom and really learn the arts of ministry. So you'll be at a site, and it's at this site that you'll learn how to integrate your learning in the classroom with the wisdom of the experiences that you have already had in your growing up, and then really begin to integrate that with the wisdom of the community you serve and learn how to be an authentic minister in both word and deed, and really to serve those who we are called to serve. Let's go ahead and take some time now and talk about field placement itself. Let's specifically take up these two questions, where you can do your field placement and especially what you'll be doing. So let's start by talking about place or context. You can do your field placement site at many different kinds of places. It might be a religious institution, you might be involved in the work of chaplaincy, it could be a social service agency or a nonprofit. You could be working in the arts or liturgical arts. You could be doing work with social justice or advocacy, campus ministry, prison ministry. These are all possibilities. I think the most important thing that I'd like you to keep in mind here is that you're looking for a place of ministry. So you're looking for a ministry site, a place where you get to grow more deeply into your vocation. And again, when we're talking here about vocation, I want you to keep in mind that this is where your passion and skill really begins to meet the needs of the world. This is about a place where you feel called, where you can become more fully and authentically yourself as a minister in this world. That said, you're also looking for a ministry site that might challenge you. It can be a place where you have some areas of growth, some skills that you know that you need to be developed. And so keep that in mind too as you begin to think about where the next place is for you. So just to give you an idea about some of the different places that people have done their sites, we've had folks be at all sorts of places. Here at CTS, we've developed a wide variety of people that we've partnered with in order to help provide you with a wonderful field site placement experience. So on this slide, you can see just a few of the organizations that we've worked with. Just this year alone, we have students who are working with people of faith and community members to grow healthy food and make it accessible to those who are systematically denied it with faith in place here in Chicago. We have students who have been working in neonatal wards and in cancer wards with families and staff as they process the joy and sufferings of life. We have students here who are engaged in congregational ministry, working across generations to hear the good news and to work for justice and mercy and to fight hate. We also have students who have done some work with legislators to stop gun violence, to protect the rights of LGBTQ folk, and to create welcome for undocumented immigrants. So these are just a handful of things that people have done or are doing, just to let you know that in addition to being in a specific place with a local placement, there are also a few opportunities for remote work placements, depending on what the skill sets are that you want to be growing, as well as for international placements. The one thing I want you to keep in mind is the question of ordination. So if you are pursuing ordination, of course, you should also be in touch with your board or ordaining body to see what it is that they require, such as congregational ministry. And then, of course, to be in a process of discernment with them about where a good field site or kind of field site you should be looking for, and to be open for their suggestions. And of course, you and I will also be in conversation about that as well. So you've heard me mention a couple of times that field site placement is also an opportunity for you to grow more deeply in developing the skills that you'll need in order to become a minister in this world and to live more fully into your own sense of pastoral authority. So I think it can be helpful here just to take a little bit of time and walk through some of the things that you might be doing in field placement. And perhaps this will stimulate you to be able to recognize some of those areas that might be areas of growth for you. So, the kinds of things that you'll be doing in field placement. You'll be doing things like developing relationships, both with persons and between organizations. You'll have the chance to reflect theologically and, of course, to continue to engage in your study. You'll be leading and sustaining personal, individual, and communal spiritual practice, as well as practice for yourself. You'll be providing individual and communal pastoral care. Perhaps you'll be preaching or leading worship or practicing the liturgical arts. You may have the opportunity to lead in public ministry, being in the public square as probably both a prophet and in direct service as a servant. Perhaps you'll be evangelizing. Perhaps you'll be practicing the gifts of administration and leadership in church or in nonprofit settings. You could be leading programs or developing programs for faith formation using an intersectional lens, and especially paying attention to generational needs. I hope for everyone that you will learn about self-care and develop a good self-care practice, as well as developing more directly excellent time management skills and self-advocacy. And lastly, you'll get to live more fully into your vocation, your pastoral authority, and your style of religious leadership. But who knows in ministry? Maybe you'll be splish splashing around with kids at church camp like one of our alums, Katie Miller. I know you're getting excited at this point and thinking, well, when can I do field placement? So let us talk through that. You can do field placement after you've completed 8 courses here at Chicago Theological Seminary. 2 of these courses need to be, first, systematic theology, and then second, either introduction to pastoral care or introduction to pastoral theology. The second important thing related to this is that when you do field placement, typically we like to have this done during the academic calendar year, so September through May, particularly because you'll also be enrolled in an online course, LM 400, that accompanies this. But that said, there is also the possibility that you could request to do a summer intensive with good rationale, but then you'll need to enroll in LM 400 for the next academic year. All right, let's talk a little bit more about what's involved in field placement. I want to let you know that for your field placement, you're going to be at an organization, a congregation, or in some other kind of institutional setting for 400 hours. And that'll be 400 hours of serving, leading, and learning, and especially serving from a place of religious leadership. The second piece here about field placement is that you will have supervision or mentorship in ministry with regular theological reflection, and this will have to be in conversation with a site supervisor who needs to have an MDiv or equivalent. The third thing is that for field placement, we'll need you to register for FE 471 A or B, and this is concurrent field placement. And then secondly, you'll register for LM 400, Leadership in Ministry and Context, and this is a course that is offered online. Let's drill down a little bit more and talk about your academic responsibilities in enrolling in theological field placement. So, in addition to the 400 hours of work that you're doing at your field site, you'll also be responsible for producing a few major pieces um, uh, of learning covenants and such that will help ensure that your placement is one where you are really beginning to integrate theology and practice. So the first thing that you'll be responsible for producing is part one of a learning covenant. This is due May 1st, or that first day after May 1st if May 1st falls on a weekend. And this just is a notification that you have indeed identified a site and with all the contact information for a site supervisor. Um, Parts 2 and 3 of a learning covenant are a part of our coursework in LM 400, and that's due normally around mid-October. A second major piece here is the midterm evaluation, and that's due after about 200 hours. That's around mid-February of your year in field placement. Another critical component is the final evaluation, and this is due at the conclusion of 400 hours, so probably around mid-May. Another aspect of this, again, is the coursework associated with LM 400. And of course, Learning Covenant, midterm evaluation, and final evaluation are all a part of this. But in addition, LM 400 also includes academic reflection on ministry and religious leadership in praxis. There is reading. There are assignments that follow with this course. One of those assignments is a field placement journal. So this is personal reflection that is shared with your colleagues who are also enrolled in LM 400, and it's really an opportunity for you to do this kind of writing that's more personal as well as professional, and again, an opportunity to really begin to integrate theology in the kind of written form with your practice of it. So really to be able to produce your own understanding of your practical theology. And then lastly, there's no written document that accompanies this, no kind of scholarly production, but another key component here of your academic responsibilities are really helping to maintain an open line of communication between CTS and your site. We want to make sure that you are well placed and that you are well supported in your work, and we need your assistance to do that. I know that this is a lot of information with a lot of moving pieces. So I've included here a calendar, a basic timeline of field placement, when you should be thinking about doing what kinds of activities in order to be ready to go for the following academic year. So, just a reminder, you'll need to have completed those 8 courses, including Intro to Pastoral Care and Pastoral Theology, as well as Systematic Theology. Go ahead and hopefully you're already watching this field ed video, so you'll have an idea about what's happening. And from there, from here, you'll begin to think about what it means to find a good field placement site for yourself. And after that, we can just be in touch. The next major piece of this is, of course, getting in a learning covenant, that part 1 on May 1st, before the academic year that you start your field placement, and then getting registered for courses. I hope you're as excited for field placement as I am. And I find that it sometimes is really helpful to remember why we do this at all and what we're trying to do as we do the nitty-gritty of our work every day. And so, if you will, just let me really begin here to reflect on what it means to develop as a leader for the next. You're probably already deeply familiar with the goals that we have for you in terms of your learning. And so, just a brief reminder, we want you to be able to analyze the challenges of our world and to respond to them with both justice and mercy and from a theological viewpoint. We want you to be able to compassionately connect to others as they carry their load. You never know what another person is carrying. We want you to be able to live with utter integrity, to be accountable to the communities to which you come and to which you're going, and to be able to truly be a minister in this world with all that that carries, with all the responsibilities, as well as all the joys of it. And then last, we want you to be equipped to feel like you know exactly what kind of concrete actions you can do to support the mission of your site, to support ministry in the world. So now's a good time for us to begin to pause and really think through some questions that I hope will help guide you to understand where you might be called. So if you have a journal, or you want to open up a different screen on your computer so that you can do some writing, now would be a good time to do that. And I've just listed some questions here, if you're following along in the PowerPoint, that might help you. So, some questions for reflection. You might begin to write about what kind of defining moments led you to pursue an advanced degree, and especially an MDiv. What kind of changes do you want to see in the world? What needs are you carrying which affect how you see what calls for your attention? Where are your gaps? What do you need to learn? We shouldn't always choose the things that we already know how to do. Once you've done some writing on these questions, I'd like you to do some research and make a list of 5 organizations with whom you'd like to work and why. And these can be organizations anywhere, internationally, locally, regionally. Dream big, narrow that list to 3. And then what's the harm? Do a little bit of outreach. If you need some help with this, I have lots of ideas, lots of different congregations that we've worked with, church boards, nonprofit organizations, international organizations, remote organizations. But really, take some time on your own to do some processing and thinking. You know your experience far better than I do. As always, if you have more questions about the specifics of field placement or theological field education in general, I'd refer you to our website, www.ctschchicago.edu/field-education. On this, you'll be able to find the field placement timeline that's included in this video, as well as just an FAQ about theological field placement. A listing of sites is also available on the website, as well as my contact information and all sorts of other kinds of goodies. In addition to what's available on the website and everything that we've covered today in this video, I want to let you know that the MDiv Handbook is a fantastic resource and contains everything that we've talked about. And that's available online at mycts.ctschchicago.edu/student-resources/courses-degrees. All the forums and FAQs, in addition to being in the handbook, are also available online at mycts.ctschchicago.edu/student-resources/field-education. If you have questions related to academic credit and registration, please do be in contact with the registrar, Elena Jimenez, at 773-896-2471, or by email at ejimenez, EJIMENEZ, at ctschchicago.edu. And all other questions can come to me, Kate Lassiter, And I'm available at kate.lassiter@ctschicago.edu or by phone at 773-896-2511. I want to thank you so much for your attention today. I hope you're as excited about your field placement as I am. It's truly a great blessing to journey with you. And thank you so much, and blessings on your own journey. Be well.